Here with me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, and we are continuing this amazing book that I found, and I'm so glad I found it. I'll show you what we're reading. If you've not yet been following the Conjure series, then start from the beginning, because I'm basically reading you guys this whole book. We're about halfway through, and it's Old Style Conjure, Hoodoo, Rootwork, and Folk Magic by Star Casas. And at this point, we're on to the chapter where we are talking about graveyards and places of power. So I'm going to try and get everything that it has to say about graveyards into one video. However, there are some recipes for some cleansing sprays and such that I will be making other videos on after this. So, let's start reading. Places of power. In conjure work, there are many places of power where the worker can go to petition the spirit of place to help them. Let's discuss the most well-known first, the graveyard. Over the years, as conjure has been plastered all over the internet, graveyard work has been glorified. Many have been led to believe that they can just run willy-nilly through the graveyard calling on any spirit that there is, and it is safe. They have been led to believe that petitioning someone who is unknown to them is safe. I'm here to tell you that it is not safe. And I'm going to tell you why. My mama used to tell us, the dead can't hurt you, but they can make you hurt yourself. That's actually a terrifying sentence. And it's enough to make me rethink even the way I've collected my dirts in the past, and if I should give them back to the graves or not, because a lot of what she's saying in here is ringing really true. So that'll be my own personal decision, what I decide to do with those dirts I'm speaking of. But either way, I look inward in meditation, or I ask my guides, you know. Yes, so I often pondered these words growing up, and to be honest, I never really understood what she was talking about until I got online. Everyone is responsible for their own actions, and the work they will or will not do. If things go wrong, they have no one to blame but themselves. You should use caution when you're working with any spirit, but you really need to use caution if you're going to be working with graveyard spirits. Always use your common sense when doing this type of working. Before I go further into this, I want to make something very clear. This is my opinion, and this is Star Casas' opinion, not mine. However, we agree on a lot of things. This is my opinion, and how I have been taught to interact with the dead. I am by no means saying that is the only way or the right way, but it is my way, and I feel it's the safest doing the work. I'm not saying anyone else is wrong. I'm simply going to give you the reason why I don't work with spirits in the graveyard that I don't know. Here's an example. Many seek to work with unknown soldiers because they're believed to know how to follow orders. I can't disagree with this, because it is true that soldiers are trained to follow orders and to do what they are told to do in time of war. But let's think about this for a minute. How many of these soldiers really hated being told what to do? How many of them ended up with some type of mental illness? How many of them were put in a position of doing jobs that they could never talk about? All of these questions potentially add up to trouble. If you are petitioning an uncontrollable soldier spirit, how do you know what type of spirit you are calling up? My brother was a Marine. I will never call on him to help in any situation because I know what his mental state was. I know the issues he had in life. Just because someone has passed doesn't automatically turn them into a saint or into a new person. I was taught that it is dangerous to go to the graveyard and rouse up spirits you don't know. folks you didn't know in life, unless it is your blood kin, and sometimes not even then, depending on how they lived. Just use your common sense, and when you're dealing with the graveyard and the dead that live there. I understand that sometimes we live far away from where our dead are buried, just like I'll be visiting my granddad next week. This will be the first time I'm collecting graveyard dirt from him, because I haven't been to Idaho where he's at for the last 6 years, and I certainly wasn't doing witchcraft at that time, just herbalism. So okay, so what do we do in these cases when the dead, our loved dead ones are far away from us? Should one never do graveyard work at all if they can't get to the grave of a family member? Of course not. There's always a way around any issue. Southern folks are known for taking care of their family members' graves. On holidays, the graves are decorated. They're kept clean and prayed over. I visit my dead kin often. But if you live away from your dead kin, then it's always then you can always adopt a grave. I'm sure some of you are wondering what in the world I mean by adopt a grave. You can go to a graveyard near you and find a grave that looks like it needs tending. Sometimes you will get lucky and the grave will speak to you. Other times it might take a little work, but in the long run it will benefit you and the spirit. To prepare to go to the graveyard on your hunt for a grave to adopt, you need to make sure that you are well protected. Here are the steps I take for going into the graveyard. I take a spiritual bath and I wash with a wash made by hand from bay leaf, baking soda, and 4 tablespoons of salt. Once the wash is cool, I pour it in my bathtub. The whole time you are in the bathtub, you should be praying for protection and guidance. Under the soles of your shoes, you need to place a bay leaf and a pinch of sulfur in both shoes. You need to gather the items you need to bring with you. On this trip, you need a pendulum that works well with you, meaning one that you work with and have great success with getting the answers you are looking for. You will need a gallon of water, a rag, some type of spiritual water, and a small spray bottle with a mixture of a capful of ammonia, 4 tablespoons of salt, and a pinch of sulfur added to the water. Mix the ingredients well. Before I move on, I want to give you a little more detailed instruction about the spiritual water you'll need to bring to the graveyard to clean the headstones with. There are many commercial spiritual waters out on the market today, like Florida water, which I'm always using, and other pre-made waters. Florida water isn't a traditional Conjure water, although a lot of folks work with it. If possible, you should always try and make your own products. They will always be more powerful than any pre-made product you buy, because you know what has gone into the product and you will be the one praying over your product. I'm going to give you 2 recipes for the wash to clean the headstone with. One recipe will be all items you probably have in your pantry. The other will be a mix of pantry items and items you might need to buy at a Conjure shop. Each of the washes will have 3 ingredients in them to represent the Holy Trinity of 3, okay? Father, Son, Holy Ghost, or Holy Spirit. There's also other trinities, and every religion has a trinity, by the way, but that is like Christian or Catholicism. Okay, so wash 1 has 3 bay leaves, basil, and 3 tablespoons of salt in a spray bottle, I think. Wash 2 has frankincense, myrrh, and rue, R-U-E, rue. Now, rue is not an ingredient I have, so I'm going to need to order it, or find out a good substitution for rue. Place the roots and the herbs into a gallon of water. I thought this looked kind of spooky and graveyardy, so I brought it out. Place the roots and the herbs into a gallon of water in a pot on the stove. As the water is heating and bringing to a boil, pray Psalms 23 over the wash. I've written down Psalms 23. If I have time at the end, I'll read it for you. And I've also written down the Lord's Prayer. I actually quite like the Lord's Prayer, so I'll definitely be reading that for you at the end. Bring the water to a strong boil, then turn off the fire and cover the wash to steep. Once the water is cool, pour the water back into the gallon jug. And I have a really cool jug that I've just thrifted. I'll paint over this and I'll paint something beautiful on it. But it's nice because it's darker, so the light won't penetrate it as much, you know? As opposed to like a clear bottle, this is your other option. If you don't have a jug like this, you can just put it in a clear bottle or mason jar. See, the light penetrates through this, which is nice because if you're going to bless it in the moonlight, that would be amazing. But then you're going to want to keep it in the dark part of your closet. And when you go to collect graveyard dirt, this is a great size, just a little jar, and you don't need to fill it up. Again, just a couple tablespoons, whatever you need, is what you should get at the time. Is what a lot of the reading says on Conjure work. Okay. Once you have everything ready, then you can find a graveyard that calls to you. I don't usually write full instructions on how to do a graveyard work, but I figured I might as well give safe instruction because tons of folks who don't have a clue what they are doing are just going into the graveyard to work. As a teacher and a writer, I feel better for trying to share safe information for working with the dead than letting the reader guess and at what I'm trying to say. If you have to work with non-blood kin, then you should take every step you can to get to know the spirit you will be working with and let them get to know you. There are a lot of unkept graves and graveyards all over the country, so I'm pretty sure that you won't have a hard time finding an unattended grave in your area. When I go to the graveyard, I didn't say this, I'm going to make videos on both Wash 1 and Wash 2. As soon as I get the roux or a substitute, I'm doing a video on both of those. I may do Wash 1, which is the bay leaves, basil, and salt. I may do that today. Okay, so there are a lot of unkept graves and graveyards all over the country, so I'm pretty sure you won't have a hard time finding an unattended grave in your area. When I go to the graveyard, I pray all the way there. Prayer is important because it offers protection from unwanted spirits trying to cling to you when you enter or leave the graveyard. When you reach the gate of the graveyard, you need to drop some change as you go over the threshold of the driveway. Different folks will tell you different amounts to drop. I drop at least 5 coins going in, and remember, you have to drop coins when you leave as well. You pay to get in, you pay to get out. You may have to go more than once if you didn't find a grave where the spirit is willing to work with you. This is really important, you guys, and you just need to listen to your intuition. You will know, and listen to feelings as well. If you get a stomach ache or a not good feeling, go. If you feel happy, euphoric, and light, tingling white light, good to go in the best possible scenario, you know. Or you could feel somewhere in between, but if you're all second guessing it, it's a no. Pray all the way there. Prayer is important because it offers protection from unwanted spirits trying to cling to you when you enter and leave the graveyard. Pay to get in, pay to get out. You have to go more than once if you don't find a grave where a spirit is willing to work with you. Forcing a spirit is never a good idea because they can turn on you, but different folks work with different spirits in their own way, and I am by no means saying my way is the right way, or the only way, but it is the way that I was taught and the way I've worked all these years. Say a prayer to your ancestors and ask them to protect you, and ask them to protect you for the right, help you find the right person for your adoption and honor. You should get out of the car with the pendulum already in your hand. Just stand there a few minutes and Listen to get the feel of the place. If you feel weird or scared, then simply get back in the car and drive out of the graveyard. Remember to pay the gate on the way you leave. Whether you took from that graveyard or not, pay in and pay out. Okay? Remember to, drive up the road a little ways, get your spray bottle, and spray the bottom of your feet and around your body while praying Psalms 23. Then get back in the car and go home and try again for another day. But if everything feels peaceful, then it's time to get to work. You need to be relaxed and listen to your inner voice. You know, that little voice that we have that all helps guide us. Look around and see if you can see a grave that looks like it hasn't been visited for a long time. When you find one, walk over to it holding your pendulum, and in a calm, normal voice, ask if you can say some prayers for them and clean off the grave. You might get lucky at the first grave you approach, but if you don't, try another grave. This may take a while, or you might not have any luck at the graveyard you picked. You may have to find another graveyard altogether. If you are lucky and find a grave, then you need to clean off the grave, wash the headstone with your wash, and say some prayers for the person who rests there. It's going to take a while. You have to build a relationship with the spirit. You can't just jump in with both feet. Take your time, do it right, and you will benefit from your kindness. Go weekly and bring flowers, maybe a little candy, and say some prayers for them. When you need them, they will be there for you. When you are ready to leave, pay your way out by dropping change at the gate, then drive away from the graveyard until you are away from the gate. Then get out of the car and spray the bottom of your feet and around your body with your spray. Get back in the car and head home. Try to visit the grave at least once a week for a few months. You will begin to feel a shift in the feel of your visits. A bond will grow between you and the spirit of the grave you're attending. If there ever comes a time when you need the graveyard dirt, then you need to first ask permission. Even though you will be paying for the dirt, you should never just take it without asking. That is disrespectful. Graveyard dirt is worked with for many different reasons. It's worked with for protection, for love, for crossing, for domination work, just to name a few. Over the years of being in the online Conjure community, I've heard folks say the do's and don'ts about collecting graveyard dirt. Some say there are certain times to go to the graveyard, certain phases of the moon, what days one should collect dirt on. The list goes on and on. I go anytime I need to petition the spirits for help. I'm not going to wait until the full moon or whatever if I have a job that needs to be done. The only rule I do follow, and this is my own little rule, is that I won't petition help from spirits who are not my kin or I didn't know in life. Why? Why, you ask? Because I'm not going to ask anyone unknown, especially a spirit, to help me. To do so is very foolish and very dangerous. You should only petition spirits that you have a bond with. Use your common sense. If you're going to petition an unknown spirit, then you need to introduce yourself to them, clean their grave, and get to know them before you jump in with both feet. Just because a person has passed on doesn't mean that they're all of a sudden a great person. There are only two things that I stand firm on, and I think everyone should do them before and after going to collect dirt or going to work in the graveyard. First, focus on your personal protection. Take a good protection bath before you go to the graveyard, and carry a good protection amulet on your person while you're there. Second, cleanse and make sure you come home alone. Before you get too far down the road from the graveyard, you need to do a light spray cleansing, and when you arrive at home after your trip, you need to do a really good cleansing. Let me explain to you why I follow these rules. Spirits roam the graveyard. That is where they live. Not all of them are happy about being dead. Okay? That's really something to think about. So when we're not happy about stuff, we often take it out on other people. We often think about things that you do when you're not happy and then amplify that, and now you're dead. So that could get really muddled and really icky really quickly. So that was something I hadn't thought about. in particular, and I was glad that she said it in that exact wordage, because it really struck home. Okay. Not all of them are happy about being dead. Some of them can even be very nasty. Also, when you go there, you will be building energy with your prayers and whatever you are doing. Entities are drawn to this energy that you are putting out. Why in the world would you go there without protection? Please use your common sense. Now, you've done your work and you go home. Maybe nothing attaches itself to you, or maybe it did. Why take the chance? Cleanse yourself just to be on the safe side. It's better to be safe than to be sorry. And if a spirit attached itself to you and followed you home, believe me, you would be sorry. Like, that is not a fun situation from what I've heard from other people. It's like life condemning sometimes, so. Where are we at? Yep. Cleansing yourself on the safe side. Better be safe than sorry. Here are the steps I take on a normal trip to the graveyard. They have served me well. Then I get to the road that leads to the graveyard. Okay. Here are the steps I take on a normal trip to the graveyard. They have served me well. When I get to the road that leads to the graveyard, I leave an offering. I call to the spirit keeper of the gate. Spirit keeper of the gate, I ask permission to enter. Okay? And keep me safe while I'm here. Then you leave your offering to that spirit, and you're paying them basically to keep you safe in the graveyard, okay? By the time I reach the gate, I know whether or not I can go in. You may be thinking, how do I know? Well, we as humans have a built-in alarm system. If I feel fear or nervousness, then I am by no means going to proceed. Just remember, if you're standing there and you go from feeling good to all of a sudden feeling like very, very different, and nothing else influenced that, use your common sense. Built-in alarm system, I like that. At the gate, I leave another offering. I usually just drop some change, or I leave 3 pennies for the Trinity. I can't stress enough how important it is to be respectful when you are at the graveyard. You are here to ask for assistance. Ask is the word here. When I reach the grave, the first thing I do is say a prayer for them. Then I will talk to them for a while. Even though I will be paying for the work or dirt, no one likes to feel used, not even spirits. When I feel the time is right, I will tend to them. When I feel the time is right, I will tell them what I need help with. At this point, it is important that you listen. Why? Well, there have been a few times when I was led to do something different than I had planned on doing. Not only did the work turn out right, but it was also very powerful. And here's the thing. This has happened to me before, but not at the graveyard. You know how you guys, I was talking about doing that spell on my coworker because she was just being so nasty to me? I couldn't get it justified in my head. Like, she hadn't really wronged me besides the fact that she embarrassed me in front of all my other coworkers and called me an idiot and blah, 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 and was, like, so harsh on me, mean to me, right? But she hadn't done me a wrong, So I kept thinking about how I was preparing the video to make for you guys. And I kept tripping over the tripod. And I was thinking, I'm going to break this thing, and if I break it, I can't do videos. Okay, so I saw it as my guides telling me, do not do this video. If you do this video, you're going to end up with a broken tripod. So I listened to that, and I respect it, and I'm not going to be doing a spell to bind her mouth shut from talking about me anymore. Even though I collected the straw, and I collected my own tears that I cried over the issue, and I collected all this stuff. Sometimes it's just not meant to be, you guys, and you have to listen. You have to really listen. Because our guides can't just come out and say, hi, this is your guide. So here's what you need to do. You have to take it from clues, from the clock, from the universe, from the white peacocks that are flocking your house, from the whatever. You just have to figure it out, you know. Meditation helps a lot with that. If I haven't shown you guys this cup, I don't know if you know the IT Crowd. It's a great show. It's got like this awesome Irish guy in it and great British actors as well. But the first line in the show, I think, and it's just a common line, is, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" Because it's this group of IT people who like are down in the basement and they're like total computer nerds, and it's just like my favorite. Also, this mug is huge, so it holds a great amount of cuppa. Cuppa. Okay, so we're back in the graveyard. Bring it back in, Jennifer, and focus, because we're at 25 minutes. But we'll get there. We're almost done. We're going to get this in under half an hour, and then we'll be on to talking about crossroads. Ask, listen. Okay, listen. Why Well, there have been a few times when I was led to do something different than I had planned on doing. Not only did the work turn out right, but it was very powerful. When I'm ready to get my dirt, I use my pendulum to find out where the best place is to get dirt from. I always check myself. I've learned over the years that this is a good habit to have. Sometimes you'll get dirt from more than one place on the grave. It just depends on what the pendulum says. The next bit that I'm going to read, I'll be doing a video on. Here's a work to drive away someone who is causing trouble. Make a dolly, or a doll baby, or a voodoo doll, or a poppet, or whatever you want to call it. Then add a pinch of hot foot powder. I'll do a video on how to make that as well. Along with any personal items you may have of the targets, and the ashes from the petition. Then you need a little graveyard dirt. It doesn't take a lot of dirt to get the work done. The dirt should be taken from the foot of the grave. So don't ask pendulum in this case, take it from the foot of the grave. And you should petition the spirit to move the target out of the way and hold them down so they can't come back. So that'll be what I'm making my video on. I always just take a tablespoon of dirt or so. Once I get the dirt, I'll drop some coins in the hole where I took the dirt. So the coins actually go into the earth so that people don't come around and steal it, probably. That's a super sad thing, and anyone that would steal from a ghost or a witch's offering, I feel super sorry for you, because you're not thinking. Like, who would do that? Who would steal money from a graveyard, you know? But it happens, and I hope you never do it, but yeah, it definitely happens. So take the dirt, and then I would cover it over. When I do it, I cover it over with dirt, so it's like buried next to them, you know. And this pays for the dirt. Usually I work with my mama. I never give her whiskey. She was against any type of alcohol, so I always want to bring her strong black coffee. I will either place a cup in the hole and fill it with coffee, or just pour the coffee in the hole. She smoked Pall Mall cigarettes, so I always bring her some. I will open the pack and light one. I give her 3 puffs, then place the cigarette on the edge so she can smoke some too. I leave the rest of the pack for her. Once I give all my offerings, I will give thanks for the help given. I do give my daddy whiskey every once in a while. The thing is, you don't want a drunk spirit on your hands, so be mindful of the offerings you give. If it's alcohol, leave 1 shot, you know. When the work is done, I head home. When I am at the gate, I also thank the gatekeeper for letting me in and protecting me. Really important, in my opinion. I leave more change on my way out. By leaving more change at the gate, I know that the gatekeeper won't let anything follow me. You guys, important to pay in and pay out. You need to pay that gatekeeper because they will keep you safe. But you need to announce yourself to them. And announce yourself on the way out. And announce, let nothing follow me home. You know, this is where it stops. Once I drive out of the gate, I don't look at any mirrors until I am well away from that graveyard. I don't want to maybe draw a spirit to me that may be lingering outside the graveyard. Always be respectful of the spirits and always pay your debt to them. You really never know when you may need them. We need to remember that graveyard work is a lot more than just enemy work. We also need to remember that when you go to the graveyard, it is important that you protect yourself. I have found that some folks have been taught to believe that they can go into the graveyard and do work without protection. This is a misconception. Before you go to the graveyard, you need to do a protection working for yourself. Common sense tells us this: if you are entering a place where spirits live. Okay, I'm going to be doing a video on this last paragraph here. When you finish your work at the graveyard, you also need to cleanse yourself. You don't want to take a chance that something might have followed you home. I always carry a spray bottle with me that has 1 capful of ammonia, 1 capful of table salt, and frankincense added to the water, like a chunk of the resin, or some drops of essential oil. I spray my feet and my body with this spray after leaving the graveyard while saying the Lord's Prayer. Once I get home, I do a good cleansing. It is always better to use caution when doing this type of work. And we're at 30 minutes, so I only have time to read you the Lord's Prayer, which I quite like. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive them that trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Or Omen. Okay, that's the Lord's Prayer. Guys, thanks for joining me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, while we talked about, in our book of Conjure, the places of power. That was graveyards, and next we're going to be talking about the crossroads. That's right, the crossroads. So come back and join me, Jen, the Taxidermy Witch.